because, when you're all about the customer first, you're always going to win the game, right? So, and the customer's got to feel that. So Matt's one of those people that has that standard at the highest level, and he's just fun and an excellent salesperson. Like, this guy knows what he's doing. So make sure you take good notes, and I'm excited to see the questions that you guys have for him here in just a minute. Let's give Matt a warm round of applause.
What's up, guys? Let's give it up for Curtis and Josh one more time. Always love hearing Curtis talk. He always gives me a couple good nuggets. Real quick, just to kind of give you a background, everyone that's been doing fairs and shows, I know you guys can pretty much figure it out that if you maximize the scripts that we have, but also take advantage of the amount of past customers that actually come to our booth, you can really just be a game changer and increase your sales every single year, every single campaign, just by getting good at that. And think about this. Josh already said it, but more than 75% of people that really approach our booth and work with us already have Cutco. So just think about that. Let that ponder a little bit and think about how many people we talk to already own the product. So this should actually be like a light bulb, and it should be exciting knowing that my job is that much easier. So my first 6 years selling Cutco, I really just found myself focusing selling to new customers. It's kind of like whenever you're a new rep and you're doing demos, right? You just think about it's better to sell bigger orders to a new customer. That was just my mindset, and so for me, that was my focus, and I wanted just to get good at selling to new customers. But what I realized was not focusing on, showing bigger packages and not showing bigger orders to past customers was hurting me. So after I got real comfortable selling to new customers, I shifted my focus, and within the last couple years, I've really worked on my skill set and my approaches to close bigger orders and close a lot more often to actual Cutco owners. And it made my job much easier because when I got the confidence in the scripts and the confidence in my own skill set, I got excited when a Cutco owner would come up versus like, oh, let me just get your service info and move on to another customer that doesn't have Cutco. So that was like my big shift, and understanding the potential I missed out on, I knew this would be the game changer to increase my averages at shows, but my overall growth in sales for the year. And Josh touched on it, but last year I had my best year ever, grew to 360 grand for the year. Most of it, I would say 85% of it was at the booth. The rest was pretty much service calls. This year so far in January, I just had my best January ever and sold about 43 grand. So I've only done 3 events so far this year, and they're all like 3-day home shows. But it just goes to show me what I've been working on really hard the last year is definitely coming to tuition this year, and it's actually really showing my averages. So I'm really excited about what I can do this year, just getting better on my skill set. So there's 5 main components. How many components? 5. To selling to Cutco owners that I found really important. So that's what I'm going to cover today. Real quick, write them down. Number 1 is become a master of the approach. Quick question is, ask yourself, what's your confidence level in your past customer approach? On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being like you're a master of it all, 1 being I don't really know anything, or I don't even have this script. What's your confidence level on a scale of 1 to 10? Number 2, service first. So I know Josh told you about this. With me, I'm really big on the service first mentality. If you've ever go to field training with me, not just on my service calls, but at the booth, I'm really big on serving the customer first and winning their trust, getting them on my good side, building that connection with them, and then just getting on the level to where you can just introduce anything and everything, and they pretty much think they need to have it because you say they need to have it. So take care of them and get their info. Number 3, asking engaging questions. So asking engaging questions. The ability to ask the right questions gets them to think about buying today. So when you engage the right way, like I said, you connect, right? You connect at the point to where if someone just happened to see Cutco at a random show, had no expectation of buying knives that day, but after a few simple connecting questions, now they're considering to buy Cutco from you at that booth. That's pretty much what you want to do with asking the right questions. Number 4, piquing the customer's interest. So quickly showing new popular items, piquing their interest into growing their Cutco collection. And then number 5, closing with a purpose. So I'm going to talk about closing with the intention of explaining why they should get it, reestablishing the value in the product, and making them feel really good about upgrading or adding to their Cutco collection. So those are the 5 components I'm going to talk about. So let's go over the first one, guys, the approach. First, I have to give credit to Jason Jeffrey. Yeah, give him a hand. So Jason actually came out and helped field train with our biggest event last year, the San Diego Fair, which I personally did about 90 grand in 21 days or something like that. But it's really his approach that I implemented, and I pretty much took my 7 years of experience, and instead of having the pride of I'm already good at what I do, I was open to his ideas, his approach, and I just really wanted to try new things and just kind of spice things up. And I'm really glad I did, because his approach was really what increased my averages, and actually our team's averages. I mean, we grew the fair from 360, I think, to 510. So, I mean, just our team overall crushed it. And we knew that what we were lacking in was the past customer approach. I mean, we were promoting buy 2, get 1 frees, like shooting ourselves in the foot on the get-go, because we just didn't know a good, smooth transition to close bigger packages. So Jason came down, showed us a couple new things. Really, we just made it a point to memorize his approach. So write that down. Get his approach. If you don't have it, I know you can get it from him, from Josh, or you can email me after. I'll give you guys my email. But really, that was the one thing where I just became a student of the business again. I just decided to study it, memorize it, and implement it. So I only started using his approach since May of last year, which is why it's been shown in my averages. And I think now it's at the point to where it's almost second nature in my events, to where I just notice myself closing more upgrades, closing bigger package deals, companion sets, ultimate upgrades. And it's been fun. So internalize it and then personalize it. And what I mean by that is know the main points of it, understand why he says what he says, and then make it personal with your own lines or changing up a little bit of the lingo. So internalize, then personalize. Because everybody, it's your own style, right? It's your style that flows well with the customer at the booth. And it's really kind of how you personalize it that makes it the right connection with the customer. But the reason why you want to internalize it is because it helps you adjust accordingly, depending on what the customer already has, what they're interested in. But if you know the breakdown of his approach and you know the end results and what you're trying to get, you're able to adjust with the customer. So consistency in the approach leads to a consistent higher average. And the longer you implement it and practice, the better you get over time. So that's what I just noticed with me. I started implementing this May of last year. I was getting decent at it during the fair. Like I started getting the ahas, like, oh my gosh, this stuff works. I'm actually closing upgrades at the booth. The companion set was like my new buy 2, get 1 free. So five piece specials versus buy 2, get 1 free. So now it's like at the point to where I'm like, wow, I mean, I can definitely see why it was worth implementing this. So get that approach. Second thing, service first. So before you guys dive into the sales, before you get all excited about showing the new stuff, it's so important to serve the customer, get their info, right, and offer your service for them. And there's a couple of reasons why. It actually might be overlooked by a lot of you, but it's something simple as reassuring that we back our guarantee, right? When you meet a customer and they've had Cutco for 10 years, you have to ask them, have you ever had your stuff serviced? That's like the first thing I ask. I'm like, have you ever been taken care of? Have you ever had your knife sharpened? And I just want to reassure them that, hey, one of the main reasons why people invest in us is we sharpen your knives for free. We can either come out to your house and do it in about 30 minutes, or if you want, I can show you how to send it back for factory service. But by doing this, I mean, you can't just assume they remember that. You can't assume that they know that they can send it back. And many times, actually, customers are like, what? You can actually do that with Cutco? I'm like, how did you not know that? How did you even buy this? Because most of the time, if you think about it, people bought from their nephew, right? Their daughter, their son. They just bought it to be nice. I mean, they don't really pay attention to the guarantee or remember about the guarantee. So you just want to reassure them the value in the product, the value in getting free sharpening, being American made. So whenever I get their service info, that's when I really want to make that connection, but establish that like professionalism to where, hey, I'm going to take care of you. I'm going to take over as your Cutco guy. I've been doing this for about 8 years. I take care of over 3,500 clients, so I'll be your knife guy for life. And so it's just a really kind of professional way of connecting right away before you actually even start selling stuff. And it brings up any issues with the product too. So obviously, figuring out if their knives are dull and need service, if there's anything broken or damaged, and then just making them feel good that they can actually get it replaced for free. I'm sure you all have had that experience where someone's like, oh my gosh, my knife broke and I haven't been using it because it's broken in half. I'm like, did you know that you can send it back and they'll replace it within a couple weeks? They're like, shut up. Are you serious? And they just get super excited, right? So if you can't handle that ahead of time, what makes you think they're going to be interested in looking at more? So that's the whole point about taking care of the customer first and getting their info for service. But also, it allows you to at least try and close them when you come over if they end up not taking advantage of any specials at the show. So it just kind of takes care of that ahead of time. There's been times where I'm close to closing a pretty big order, like an upgrade at the booth, and it's kind of like an easy, soft close. But if they're like, hey, Matt, this is the reason why we can't do it, I'm like, hey, you know what? Don't even worry about it. I appreciate your time, but whenever I come out and sharpen your knives, I'll make sure I honor that same special. So whenever I come over, I can just re-explain what you were looking at, and then maybe you can take advantage of it there. And 100% of the time, they're always super excited about that, and I usually come over and sell them more. So it's just a good backup plan, I guess. Okay, the next thing is asking engaging questions. This is really where you need to be a master of knowledge, because you need to get really good about digging in and getting info out of the customer that you then can use to strategically show them new stuff, but close with that info. So a lot of the best representatives I know are really good at this, but it's something that you just have to get good at through experience and just be a better listener, okay? So ask engaging questions, and here's just a list of questions that I have. So obviously, how long have you had your Cutco for? I love asking this, how did you get started? Ask how they got started with Cutco. Figure out if it was an in-home demo, a referral. What if it was a previous show? Okay, figure out how they got started with the product. It'll tell you a lot about, about them and how they got introduced. When was the last time you had them sharpened? Have they ever been sharpened? Is there anything broken or damaged? By the way, Mrs. Jones, which set do you have? Is it the basic one, the medium, the complete? Do you recognize which one it is? So just figure out what they already own. Or if you have your display on the red boards, hey, do you recognize any of the knives right here? So if it's someone that's had them for like 30 years, I always assume it's like the homemaker pieces. So I'm like, hey, do you recognize any of the ones right here? These are great questions. What's your favorite thing about Cutco? Figure out what they like. Because if someone tells you, I love the fact they're American made and guaranteed forever, that's what you need to reassure the close with, right? Curtis gave some really good points about reassuring the close. Well, this is how you close a customer. You use their info to close them. And I know you really appreciate American-made, guaranteed forever stuff, Mrs. Jones. So just like your investment 30 years ago, and think about that's why you love Cutco, that's why you're going to love your new stuff. So you're just really using the info to help you. It's like your ammo at the end. Which knives do you like the most? What's your go-to knives, Mrs. Jones, that you get the most use out of? 100% of the times, the trimmer. Trimmer, petite chef, petite carver, okay. There's always a few, 2 or 3 that they love. And then I always ask this, which ones do you use the least? This is what's super important about selling to Cutco owners. Figure out what they're not using. And I want you guys to think about this. Would anyone be open to upgrading if they're already not using their whole set? No. That's why you need to figure out what they're not using. Butcher knife, right? Carving set, bread knife, right? Most people, they're not using half their stuff. So what you have to do is reassure why it's valuable in their set for when they could use it. So Mrs. Jones, I don't know if you knew this, but the butcher knife is not just for whole chickens. It's the best or one of the best for doing your melons. Do you ever do watermelon in the summer, cantaloupe, honeydew? Oh my God, yes, I never knew I could use this. Boom, now she's excited about something she hasn't been using for years. Talk about the bread knife can be used for heads of lettuce, bagels, anything else, okay? And then just talk about with the carving set, reassure them that, hey, Mrs. Jones, just remember the carving set, it's something you only use 3 to 4 times a year. But when you guys do use it, don't you appreciate having it? Oh yeah, you're right, because when my husband, he doesn't cook at all, but he's the guy that carves the turkey. So you just reassure them like why their stuff is valuable. So you just want to cover stuff they're not using. I mean, I've even had customers say, I'm not using the spreader, and I'm like, what? Are you crazy? You know, this is like one of our most popular, and I just sell them on the spreader. Avocado knife, bagels and cream cheese, it's the sandwich making machine, it's the college kid knife. You just say whatever you can to get them excited about using it. And then what you're doing is you're really serving the customer because now they feel really good about what they invested in 5 years ago, 10 years ago. And now they're open to looking at what else, right? What else? So take mental notes of all of this info. And like I said, you're going to use it to strategically sell the customer more. So the better you are about creating packages that relate to the info at hand is how you're going to get a higher closing percentage. Okay? All right, let's talk about piquing the customer's interest. So this is all about what you can say and what you can introduce to the customer that they're going to want or haven't seen before. So there's a couple things that I just quickly talk about and show to the customer. Obviously my top 3, right? The hearty slicer, the petite santoku, the cheese knife. My favorite thing is doing the leather demo, right? With the hearty slicer, just talking about how it's the barbecue knife for tri-tip, briskets, ribs, chicken steaks, tough squashes. But get them excited about using that, right? Using it on the leather. The petite santoku, the cutest knife we make, have them chop with that. The potato demo with the cheese knife, so everyone knows how to do that. Introduce the new steak knives. Most people haven't seen the stainless ones. Introduce that, which is the lead into the flatware. Legacy steak knives, if some people are still doing that. Wine opener, right? Display the wine opener. Hey, we just came out with a new gadget. Here's a wine opener. We introduced a new paring knife, the gourmet paring knife. Hey, how comfortable is that mat you're standing on right now? And they're like, oh my gosh, I didn't even notice. Where'd you guys get this from? I'm like, we actually partnered with wellness mats. So we actually offer that for the kitchen. So there's just quick things that you can list off that's new, right? You're just piquing the customer's interest. And then you got to think about all the packages you can start introducing. So this stuff should be going through your head as all that info that you got from the customer before. So upgrades. if you're not closing upgrades to Cutco owners, here's a big area of improvement, right? Especially if most people you're talking to only have a homemaker, galley, or even a few pieces. But Mrs. Jones, have you ever heard of our upgrade program before? So you're piquing the interest, right? No, tell me about it, right? Or you're gonna be like, Curtis, hey, do you wanna hear about our hidden special for upgrades? You have to ask me though, right? Have you ever thought about upgrading your set? So just asking the question, have you even thought about upgrading your set? You'd be surprised. Some people are like, we've actually been considering. What does that look like? Boom, there's your lead into the ultimate upgrade. Cookware, have you seen our cookware? And you know, hopefully you have it displayed on your table. This is the one question that I teach people that will sell you so much more cookware, I promise you. Mrs. Jones, what is your pots and pans situation like? If Eric Gilman was here, he would attest to this question. Seriously, this question has sold me so much cookware at shows, but also in-home on appointments, because all you're really doing is asking an open-ended question about, shit, my cookware is so old, it's Teflon, it's from our marriage, right? They just start thinking about what their pots and pans situation is like. And then all of a sudden, it's your lead-in to talking about how good our stuff is. But when I ask that question, I mean, they're really good about just explaining their situation. Like, oh boy, we're in need. We definitely need new pans. And then all of a sudden, it's like, oh, I'm glad I asked. Some people are like, oh, we invested in Kitchen Craft, or oh, we bought Lifetime Coat. You know, some people, they got their stuff together. Flatware. Have you ever seen this box of beauty? It's our #1 discount at the show. It's the only thing we carry that's 40% off here today. Are you guys even showing the box of beauty, right? I think Mike Dowd has the best display of the flatware. He's got like 2 cool signs in there, but yeah, the box of beauty is what I call it, because it is beautiful. This is a great question as well. Would you be in the market in the next 3 to 5 years to replace your flatware? In the next 3 to 5 years, would you be looking to replace your cookware? So asking those questions, getting an idea of what they're at in their situation at home. And then this one's real fun. This is what I've been implementing, and I finally sold my first Cutco kitchen the first week of January. So the Cutco kitchen is what I call the deal of the day. And that's how I pique customers' interest. I just say, have you seen the deal of the day? Would you like to see the deal of the day? And I'll give you a couple quick side stories. I'll try to make it short. But when I implemented the deal of the day, it was probably like the fall of last year. And no joke, I've gotten people walking by and not even paying attention, and I would literally say, hey, you want to see the deal of the day? And I've pulled customers to the booth by piquing their interest with the deal of the day. And it's turned into, I think, 2 ultimate sets now, a signature, and a couple like homemakers. And really, all I do is I pull the Cutco kitchen page out. And I just say, I don't know if you've heard of Cutco. It's American made, guaranteed forever, been around for 67 years. This is our one and done package. I just go straight to the Cutco kitchen. And I'm like, their eyes are like, what? What are you showing me right now? And I'm like, don't worry, I just wanted to show you our #1 deal. Hardly anyone ever gets it, but just curious. This is where it gets real fun. So it's just curious, Mrs. Jones. Most people start with one or the other. So what are you in the market for most? The knives, the flatware, or the cookware? And all of a sudden, they're like, definitely can't afford $7,000 today, but tell me about your knives. Boom, you do your knife demo. What the hell is $1,000 compared to $7,000, right? That's why it's so easy to lead in with the Cutco kitchen and then sell a set, cookware, flatware, whatever. So that was kind of off topic, but okay. Well, that wasn't really a past customer tip. Anyways, I hope you like that. Okay, kids program. So if you haven't heard of the kids program, I hope you have, but it's pretty much the idea of selling starter sets to the kids. So asking questions like, hey, how many kids do you have? How old are they? Do they have Cutco yet? If they say no, why not? Let me introduce the kids program or the Hope Chest program. And then you show them right? Business gifts. Who's been closing business gifts at shows? See, everyone's hands needs to be up. I finally did my first business gift off the sheet from Josh, and it was awesome. And all I did was do this approach. Hey, do you own your own business? How often do you give gifts to employees, clients, referrals, etc.? Okay, and you just dig in. And having that sheet makes it super easy to show them our top selling gift sets and close that. And another key point here that I've actually developed on my own really is just look at their email. You can actually figure out if they have their own business by looking at their email, because it'll say like their name at like theirnamecompany.com, you know? And so you're like, hey, just curious, what do you do for a living? Do you have your own business? Boom, leads into, you know, business gifts. So I had my first like $900 order at the home show I did a couple weeks ago, just doing this approach. It was awesome. Okay, and then here's my my main nugget, or my main approach that I want to kind of go over for selling to Cutco owners. So my favorite approach is the Jason Jeffrey. I call it the companion set, but the 5-piece custom set versus the ultimate upgrade. Okay, so I'm gonna go over pretty much what I do and then, you know, the main tips for that. But the biggest thing is, like I said, the approach. Making sure you guys know the approach, study the approach, and implement it. After you get the customer's info, right? So after you get their service info and you've asked a couple of those engaging questions, ask the customer for permission to show the top requested knives that complement what they have right now. Mrs. Jones, just for fun, can I show you our top requested knives that complement your homemaker set that you've had for 30 years? Just ask them. Sure, Matt, go ahead. It gives you permission to show them, right? So obviously, the 5 knives, I always start off with a Petite Santoku. I'm like, Mrs. Jones, do you got this 9-inch chef in your set? This is the one that the sets used to come with, but just curious, are you comfortable using this knife? 90% of the time, they're like, you know what, it's pretty big. I tend not to use it, and I tend to use the trimmer for everything because I like the size of it. I'm like, oh, so I bet your trimmer's like just super overused, right? So you just compare the Petite Santoku, Mrs. Jones. We came out with this for people just like you. It's half the size. It's the cutest knife we make. It's super light, and it's way easier to use, and it's more comfortable to use on a daily basis for all the smaller jobs. So instead of pulling out your French chef to cut little things, now you can have a Petite Santoku to complement your chef knife. So use words like that to complement your blah, blah, blah. The Hardy Slicer is my next one I always show. So I always do the leather demo. I talk about how it's pretty much the heavy hitter of the kitchen, and it saves you from overusing your trimmer and petite carver. So Mrs. Jones, this is like the heavy duty knife of the kitchen, takes care of the cooked meats, partly frozen stuff, anything with small bones in it, and your tough squashes. But feel the weight of it, Mrs. Jones. It's got that double D edge, and it's got the same shape as the chef knife. So what's great is it's kind of the best of all three, okay? The 4-inch paring knife, Mrs. Jones, we came out with this for people like you, or for people that tend to use the small paring knife on the cutting board. So just curious, with the paring knife you have, do you use it more in the air or on the cutting board? Most of the time it's like, oh, we use it on the cutting board. I'm like, is it pretty dull right now? They're like, yes, very dull. I'm like, yeah, so Mrs. Jones, this is actually designed to only be used in your hand in the air. That way it stays sharper for peeling and paring. So the 4-inch paring knife is definitely a top requested knife right now because it's longer and you can cut your bigger fruits on the board. And you just show like, you know, baseball sized fruits, apple, potato, things like that. So Mrs. Jones, can you see how this complements that paring knife? The boning knife, best for raw meats. So this pairs really well with our barbecue knife, Mrs. Jones, because this helps you butterfly, split, take the fats and skins off, but it gives you that nice fillet cut, whereas most people are currently using the trimmer or the petite carver, and I don't know if you've noticed this at home, Mrs. Jones, but it tends to pull and tear the raw meat, so this boning knife is gonna give you that really nice fillet cut. And then the cheese knife is what I like to end it with, so their excitement level is at the highest. So the cheese knife, Mrs. Jones, our non-stick knife, okay? Do the potato trick. talk about how they can use it for so many other things besides cheese: potatoes, apples, cucumbers, zucchinis, lemons, limes, tomatoes, okay? And then after you've done this, by the way, should take less than a few minutes. It's quick. Get their excitement at a really high peak, and you keep moving on to the next knife. That way they're not getting bored. But what I say after this is, Mrs. Jones, we have 2 really awesome specials running for Cutco owners. One's our 5-piece companion set, which I just showed you. And it's our best 5 knives that complement your set at home with our really good discount. We also have our max upgrade discount. And that is the discount or the special that helps you go from this set that you have to the best set we make. And I just show them the ultimate set. And then you just say a couple one-liners. It's our one and done, right? It's cheaper than buying a few knives every year and eventually having to upgrade. You never need a knife ever, or need another knife ever again, because now you have the right knife for the right job at all times. With the deal at the show, Mrs. Jones, it just makes sense, even if there's a few knives you don't see yourself using. So you show the rest of the knives, and you want to be even more brief with this, right? Introduce the salmon knife. I call it the melon knife. Watermelons, cantaloupes, honeydew. Introduce the vegetable knife, the cleaver. Miss Jones, the cleaver is awesome. Just feel the weight of it. Carne asada, pollo asada, that's all you need to know. Okay. So you just move on real quick and just show them what else it comes with. So Miss Jones, it also includes, a few more additional pieces. It's the only set that holds enough table knives, so you get 12. And then this is the question that you need to ask. Mrs. Jones, just for fun, would you like to see the max discount on that upgrade? Or do you want to just check out that companion set? This is where you want to get an idea of where they're at. And what Jason taught us, or me, was at this point, you can pretty much figure out if they're an upgrade customer or if they're like a 5-piece special customer. So a lot of times, if you're really good at reading the customer and they're just like, oh yeah, like you can see their body language is not going towards the ultimate. When you say, just for fun, can I show you the special on this, or would you rather see the 5-piece? You can kind of get on their side right away and be like, you know what, I could probably tell you, you're probably not going to use all these knives, right? Like you probably wouldn't want to upgrade. Not everyone does it. Let me just show you the 5-piece companion set. And they're like, yeah, definitely. Let's just check out that. I don't think I would ever go that big. So by you being, aware of that and going straight to the 5-piece, you're kind of serving them and not wasting anyone's time. But at the same time, on the opposite side of this, you can tell if they're really interested in the ultimate upgrade. So make sure you're leaning more towards that and just, hey, just for fun, let me show you this first. If you don't like it, I'll show you the 5-piece. But by showing the ultimate upgrade first, 100% of the time, you're always going to walk out, or they're going to walk away, with the 5-piece companion set, okay? And then obviously it gives you a chance to upsell later. So like I said, read the customer. The key line I always say is just for fun. It just works for me, okay? Once they are interested, show the specials and just close with a great deal, okay? So use the special sheet for the ultimate upgrade. I always like to introduce our in-home special that I'll honor today, and I call it, the block trade-in. So Mrs. Jones, normally when I'm in home, I let you trade your block in, and I'll give you a $100 discount towards the upgrade. I know technically I'm not in your house right now, but we'll just say you traded your block in. I'll just come pick it up when I sharpen your knives. And they're like, really? So you can give me $100 off today? I'm like, yes. So now it's at $14.95. And then if I have to do something else after that, I will. Okay, let's talk about closing with a purpose. We'll wrap it up real quick. Just realize this, guys. Closing Cutco owners is much easier, okay? They already have the product. They love it. They already know like the price point and the value of it. So be sure to remind them about the guarantee. Be sure to remind them that this stuff is American made, right? It's an heirloom product. Remind them about how they felt when they first bought their first set, and then how they don't regret it 30 years from now. So talk about that. Like, I'm sure when you first bought your set, you're hesitant about the price, Mrs. Jones. But, 30 years ago, you probably don't remember how much you spent, right? But aren't you glad you made that investment? So you want to just help them remember that emotional state when they first bought Cutco and remind them how, hey, it's going to be about the same thing. Like, I know this might sound like a lot, but think about it. You'll have it forever. It's guaranteed for life. Free sharpening and American made, and you're going to love your set just as much. So create a want and a need, okay? Cutco owners will always buy if you can find solutions to any problems. So kind of like using that information that they gave you in the beginning when you asked those engaging questions and selling them by using that info against them or with them. So think about like an upgrade solution. When you're trying to sell an ultimate upgrade or a signature upgrade, it's really a solution to the problems they told you about, overusing their chef knife, right? Mrs. Jones, I know you said you were constantly using your chef knife on the meats. That's why this upgrade makes sense, because now you get the hearty slicer with it. So you're actually just tying in why it's a good idea to upgrade based off that information that you got from them. Cookware solutions. Mrs. Jones, I know you said that you have Teflon, you've been looking to upgrade. I think it's a smart investment because this, and that. Flatware solutions, kitchen solutions, anything that really helps solve any problems that they told you about. So if you can tie in why it's a good idea and explain why it makes sense, they're going to get it. So here's a couple lines I use. By doing this, Mrs. Jones, it will, and then boom, solve whatever problem. So if you see yourself using it all and you like it, based on the deal at the show, I think it makes sense to try it out. That's kind of one of my closing lines. So by doing this, Mrs. Jones, it will solve X problem. So if you see yourself using it all and you'd really like it, based on the deal at the show, I think it makes sense to try it out. The other thing that I got really good at was dumbing down what they already have. Okay, so I'll explain what that means. The homemaker example is what I use when I do an ultimate upgrade. I just dumb down what they have and why their new stuff will actually be used more. So for example, Mrs. Jones, the homemaker, it's what most people have, but it's kind of the old, outdated set that's been around since 1949. And what I mean, Mrs. Jones, is half the set isn't really being used on a daily basis. How often are you carving a roast, Mrs. Jones? Exactly. So the carving set really only gets used 3 or 4 times a year. Mrs. Jones, do you still bake your own bread? Are you slicing your own bread with that bread knife? Probably not, right? And so you just talk about how that bread knife doesn't really get used as much, whereas back then, people were making their own bread. The butcher knife, Mrs. Jones, I know you said earlier that the butcher knife isn't something you use all the time. So you just talk about pretty much half the stuff in their set that isn't being used consistently, and then you tie in the newer knives, and you say, Mrs. Jones, like I mentioned before, I mean, the upgrade comes with our top requested knives. So just like the ones I showed you and the ones you really like, I mean, you're gonna use these ones every day and probably even more than your older ones in your older set. So what you're doing is you're just really showing them like, hey, like that's why it makes sense, because the newer knives, when you get them, these will be the new ones that you're using consistently every single day. And then, like I said, use this line. It complements what you have right now. Okay, it complements what you have right now. And you can say, Mrs. Jones, by doing this, you won't have to overuse your 2 to 3 favorite knives, and they won't dull out as quickly. Okay. And then whenever I'm closing, I just really stress the 5-pay, kind of like what Curtis was talking about. So really just relate the 5-pay to everyday bills or expenses. So I got really good at this. I just call it the easy pay. Ms. Jones, we have an easy pay. It's 5 months, no interest, no financing. It's just like an automatic debit, kind of like a gym membership. And based off what you want to get today, Mrs. Jones, it's kind of like your cable bill. It's like your cable and internet bill. Or I like to relate the big packages, right? If it's like $600-700 for the 5-pay, I'm like, Mrs. Jones, it's kind of like a Costco trip. And they're like, it's like half my Costco trip. And so you just relate to stuff that they're already used to spending money on so they can relate. And then you just say, but Mrs. Jones, in 5 months, you're done. You're done. You'll have the best set of knives, best set of cookware, best set of flour, whatever you're selling, you're done. It's the one and done after 5 months. You won't have to worry about it ever again. And then you can pass it down to your kids and their kids and their kids and their kids. So you just really just stress the 5-pay and how easy it is. My other favorite one is Mrs. Jones, just don't go out to eat a couple times a month for the next 5 months, and it pays for your knives. Think about it. You can spend $100 easy for one couple for one nice dinner. But if it's a family, I mean, you're talking about a couple $100 just for a dinner, right? Like a nice dinner. So if they do that a couple times a month, I mean, think about how much they're spending, okay? So handle objections accordingly. We have a breakout tomorrow. Me and TC are doing our handling objections at the booth. So I'm not going to go over that right now, but that'll be good. Just remember, give good deals. And then once you get the credit card, here's just a little nugget. That's when the upselling starts, okay? So whenever you drop down from like an ultimate upgrade to like a 5-piece companion set, you're not done. When you get that credit card, that is when you have a couple more times to tempt them with a better deal to do the ultimate upgrade. Most of my ultimate upgrades come after I get the credit card and after I've closed the 5-piece companion set. So all I say is simple things like, just because you're at the show today and just because we're trying to break a record, Mrs. Jones, do you mind if I tempt you with one last deal to get that upgrade? Because you're already getting 5 new knives, and I would hate to see you just throw them in the drawer. So you're probably going to get the block down the road anyways, right? It's like, yeah, probably. Well, do you mind just for fun if I show you what I can do? And then it's like, I would say 75% close after that to actually get them to do the complete set. Unlock secret specials. That's another cool tip. So if you close the 5-piece companion set, I always add steak knives. Okay, so Mrs. Jones, just based off what you're getting today, unlocks your secret special. Do you want to hear what that is? And then you just give them a good deal. It's 6 table knives or 6 steak knives, and you just do the price for 4, okay? But when you add it to the no interest payments, it doesn't make it that much more. So that's what I have as far as like past customer stuff. If you guys don't have access to Jason's past customer approach, or you would like me to send you my outline of my talk just to get some of the nuggets that you missed, let me know, and I'll give you guys my email address real quick. It's Matt, M-A-T-T, .graves, my last name, Graves, the number 4, and then cutco @yahoo.com. Shoot me an email, I'll send you that stuff. And then other than that, guys, enjoy the rest of the meeting, soak up all the knowledge, and hope you guys implement a lot of the stuff for your fair and show this year. Thank you.